Hey there guys, I'm Adam and this is Go To Coders. Have you ever had that moment where you're just stuck like crazy on a coding problem? I want to talk about that right now. Let's get started. So, the main topic of today is how to be a better programmer. And I'm going to back up a little bit and tell you a couple stories to begin with. So early on in my programming career, back in college, for example, I remember running into problems and my first intuition was to ask somebody for help. Like, I can't figure out why this header file isn't being included correctly. I can't figure out why this other thing isn't working. But I learned very, very quickly that the moments that I got stuck actually were the moments that I learned the most. So what I've actually come up with is a strategy for developing yourself as a better programmer based on a time box method. And what I mean by that is we all get stuck. But on the flip side of that, there are programmers out there that know the answer to things. But your first intuition should not be to go ask for help. Your first intuition should be to time box yourself. And what I mean by that is, depending on the complexity of the problem, depending on your knowledge of the area, maybe you need a little more time if you don't know anything about it, you need to dig in and learn as much as you can using basic research methodology. So what I mean by that, Stack Overflow and Google. And one of my favorite methods, trial and error. Literally go in there and try stuff, read developer documentation, try something else. The problems are all over the board, right? It could be error codes, it could be an algorithm that isn't working correctly. It could be you trying to solve a problem and a performance metric isn't being met. But the best advice I can give you is to time box yourself. Don't immediately jump to get help. You won't learn as much. But on the flip side, don't sit there forever and be stuck. And this is really, really true in the professional environment when you work on a team of developers that have differing experiences from all around the world and for various number of years, right? So, for example, my experience with Angular and AngularJS is a lot higher than my experience with React. So if I start using React, for example, and I get stuck on the very first thing, what I need to do is I need to dig into the documentation and try a bunch of things to see if I can figure it out. Maybe I can find code that I can read through for how they solved it. My initial reaction should not be, let me go ask somebody that knows the answer. And the reason for that is you learn so much more in that time box period of time than you do asking someone for help. You're going to do research, you're going to learn how to debug, you're going to learn the thought process around why things don't work. And honestly, that is the best advice that I could possibly give you as a programmer. Don't get stuck forever, but don't jump to ask someone right away. It's a really interesting balance. And like I said, you got to find that balance for yourself. So if you're on a Scrum team, for example, and you have a daily stand-up, and one of my favorite things is you kind of time box yourself to the next stand-up. So when the next stand-up comes around, you may say, you know, I spent 6 hours yesterday trying to figure out why this thing wasn't compiling correctly, or why something wasn't working the way documentation defined that it should. And I need some help, because you've time boxed yourself to the next stand-up. And the stand-up is a really cool thing, right? And another thing is like, say you get stuck at the end of the day, stepping away a little bit and coming back to that the next day sometimes opens up your mind for different ways to tackle the problem. So anyway, that's my advice to you today for trying to be a better programmer. Don't be afraid to get stuck on things. And actually, that's when you should know, like deep down, when you come out of that, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to have, especially if you figure it out on your own, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to have learned a ton more information than you would have otherwise. Hopefully this tip has been helpful for you. If you have any other tips that you'd like me to talk about, please leave them in the comments below. My ultimate goal is for you all to be better programmers and to have a really awesome career building awesome software that changes the world. All right, until next time, keep coding, coders.